It started like any other weekend. My wife, Vanessa, announced she was going on a girls' trip with her college friends, a reunion she had been hyping for months. "It's just a few days," she said, tossing her bag onto the bed with a grin. "Wine, spa days, shopping, you know the drill." I smiled, nodded, and tried to be supportive. After 15 years of marriage, I thought I knew her well enough to trust her. I had no idea how wrong I was. She left Friday morning, her suitcase packed with the latest fashions, her phone buzzing constantly as she coordinated plans with friends I'd never met. I stayed behind, going about the normal weekend routine: groceries, laundry, catching up on work, and spending time with our kids. Vanessa kissed me at the door, promised to call, and waved goodbye, leaving me with a strange pit in my stomach I tried to ignore. On the first night of her trip, I received a text from one of her friends. It was harmless on the surface: selfies, wine glasses, laughter. But the way Vanessa responded immediately and almost secretly made my heart tighten. I told myself I was imagining things. She was my wife. She loved me. Surely this was innocent fun. By the second day, though, the unease grew. Her phone, which she claimed was just for photos and coordination, stayed in her hand constantly. Notifications popped up and disappeared quickly when I called. I brushed it off. Maybe she was just excited. But the third day, when I got a text from an unknown number on her phone, she'd left it unlocked while charging at the hotel, I felt a jolt. The messages were casual, flirty, and unmistakably intimate. A man named Kyle, someone I had never met, was texting her. I scrolled, stomach churning, heart hammering. At first, I didn't want to believe it, but the words were explicit. Plans, promises, confessions. Vanessa's replies weren't casual either. They were playful, suggestive, and clearly enjoying attention that should have been reserved for me. I didn't reply. I didn't confront. I couldn't. I closed the phone and tried to convince myself it was a mistake, that maybe I had misread things. But that seed of doubt had taken root. When she returned, she looked radiant, as if the weekend had rejuvenated her. She hugged me, kissed me on the cheek, and told me stories about wine tastings, spa treatments, and silly memories from college. Everything seemed normal, except for a tension in her eyes I couldn't place. I brushed it off, trying to be happy that she was home. A week later, things escalated. Vanessa started complaining about unusual fatigue and discomfort. She joked about stress and long work hours, but the symptoms worsened. I urged her to see a doctor, and she finally agreed reluctantly. The tests came back shocking. Not only was she carrying a child, but there was also a sexually transmitted infection. I felt my world collapse in the span of a single heartbeat. Pregnant. And with someone else. My mind reeled with disbelief, betrayal, anger, and shame. Questions flooded in, each one cutting deeper than the last. How long had this been going on? Was our intimacy just a facade? How could she do this to me, to our family? I confronted her in the living room one evening. She tried to dodge my gaze, fidgeting with her hands, mumbling excuses about stress, temptation, and loneliness. "It's complicated," she said softly, almost pleading. "I didn't mean for this to happen." "Complicated?" I shouted, my voice breaking. "You went on a girls' trip and came back pregnant and infected. How is that complicated? How is that even possible without destroying everything we had?" Her tears came then, slow and uneven. She admitted the affair, the weekend fling, and the ongoing deception. She named him, Kyle, a man I had never met, someone she pursued while claiming to just be reconnecting with friends. Her words were heavy with regret, but the damage was done. The betrayal felt like a physical blow. Every memory of our marriage, the vacations, birthdays, quiet evenings, family milestones, was suddenly stained by doubt and lies. I had given her everything, and she had given it to someone else, without hesitation, without thought of the life we shared. In the days that followed, I took control. I went to the doctor with her to confirm the results, documented everything, and consulted a lawyer. I needed legal protection, financial security, and custody arrangements. I couldn't let her recklessness destroy the life I had built. Not for the kids, not for me. Every interaction with Vanessa became a balancing act. I had to appear calm, collected, almost indifferent, while internally I was plotting the next steps. Her guilt was evident. She tried to apologize, to make promises she couldn't keep, to claim she still loved me. But love had been undermined by betrayal. There was no returning to innocence, no undoing the weekend that had changed everything. As we navigated the legal and medical realities, I made a silent decision. I would survive this. I would protect myself and my children. I would rebuild, not out of spite, but out of necessity. Vanessa, meanwhile, was forced to confront the consequences of her actions, the stigma, the responsibility, the reality that she could not undo what she had done. Months later, the court proceedings began. Vanessa admitted the affair openly, and the child she carried was confirmed not to be mine. Custody of our existing children was determined, financial arrangements formalized, and I slowly reclaimed my independence. She attempted to negotiate for more, but I had documentation, evidence, and the moral clarity that comes from being the wronged party. The night the final papers were signed, I stood alone in the living room, surrounded by the remnants of a marriage that had been decimated by lies. The anger and heartbreak were still present, but so was relief. I had survived betrayal. I had protected my children. I had retained my dignity. Over the following year, I rebuilt my life step by step. I moved to a new apartment, reconnected with friends I had neglected, and focused on my children, ensuring they were supported emotionally and physically. Vanessa faded into the background, a cautionary memory of how quickly trust can be shattered, and how recklessness can destroy a life that once seemed secure. Through it all, I learned that betrayal is a force that cannot be ignored, but it can be survived. Pain, anger, and heartbreak are natural responses, but they can coexist with growth, resilience, and eventual peace. My marriage had ended, my trust had been violated, but my life was not over. I had been tested, and I had survived. Looking back, I realized the girls' trip was not just a betrayal of a weekend. It was a betrayal of years, a violation of intimacy, and a challenge to my resilience. I emerged from it stronger, more aware, and more determined to protect what mattered. Vanessa's choices were hers alone, and she bore the consequences. My path forward was mine to shape, guided by integrity, love for my children, and the knowledge that no one can take away what you rebuild with care and purpose. The nightmare was painful, unforgettable, but in the end, I reclaimed my life. I survived the infidelity, the pregnancy, the infection, and the lies. I survived the betrayal that could have broken me. And in surviving, I found strength, clarity, and a path toward a future I would control.